Hey, it's Paul, aka Brother, and today I'll be starting a new series where I update players about things that are happening in Magic. Now, before I begin, just remember this kind of video is usually made a few days before I release it, and if there are any news or updates that I miss that you would like me to cover, just let me know in the comments below. First up on our list is Standard, and the meta update of Week 1. With all the decks that I mentioned, just check the description box below for lists. Throne of Eldraine officially released last Friday, October 4th, and some decks are starting to prove their strength. What's doing well, you ask? Let me tell you. A really popular deck that has been on the radar for many players is Bant Golas, featuring Golas, Tireless Pilgrim, and Field of the Dead. The deck gets to include some standard powerhouses like Teferi and Hydra Krasis, but mainly revolves around the value that Field of the Dead can create. Bant Golas is placed very well in the meta right now and is currently just able to grind more value than other late game decks. However, aggro decks can still have a pretty fair shot at beating Golas decks. With that said, I can confidently say that Mono Black aggro is definitely a strong deck and is doing well in our format. It's got an efficient early game and leads into hard-hitting, evasive threats later on. The deck also bleeds our opponents very well due to the recursive nature of Gutter Bones and Order of Midnight combined with Ayara and the Priest of the Forgotten Gods. I'd also like to add that on top of Mono Black aggro, Selesnya Adventure is another aggro deck that has had its fair share of success in Week 1. This deck can hit hard and has really good stats for their beaters. Venerated Loxodon, I think, is one of the best cards in the deck, especially when players are able to combo it with Shepherd of the Flock. Moving on, decks that feature Oko, Thief of Crowns, can feel almost unstoppable at times. Oko has proven to be very difficult to remove and can be very hard to beat if played on turn 2 because of Gilded Goose. The card is usually matched up with Wicked Wolf, which acts as the deck's beater using Oko's food as fodder. Now, there have been many different takes on Oko decks. Some players decided to go more towards the food route, including cards like Feasting Troll King, while others decided to go more ramp and included strong cards like Hydra Krasis and Nissa Who Shakes the World. Both are strong, but from my experience, the ramp strategy is seeing more play. So here's the best of the rest. Here's a quick one-point summary of everything else. Current Golgari builds like Golgari Aggro, Midrange, and Adventure are all definitely strong, but definitely not busted. Esper Stacks is very powerful with the right draw, but can feel slow and clunky at times because of the mana base and lack of finishers. Fire of Invention is proving its ability to take over at games, but there's still a lot of variance with the builds. Cynic Flash wasn't as good as people thought it would be, but given time, it can still shine. Izzet Draw 2 and Phoenix decks have a lot of potential, and players should be aware of this. In conclusion, it's awesome to see that Throne of Eldraine has made a big impact on Standard and spiced things up. Seeing so many new cards from the new set being played is always a good thing. Now, it's still super early and the meta is still forming, so expect things to potentially change. So the second thing I have on my list is the BNR announcement. Now, on October 7th, 2019, Wizards of the Coast announced that there would be no bans to any of their formats. It's usually very common for no changes to occur this early in the Standard format. If there were going to be any bannings, players have to wait until November 18th for the next announcement. However, Wizards officially posted on Twitter that they will be moving their next BNR announcement from November 18th to October 21st. This shift in date could potentially signal that Wizards are carefully looking at a few cards to receive a ban. Which cards do you ask? Well, I'm not sure. Some people have been saying Field of the Dead in Standard might be banned, or maybe Urza in Modern. What do you all think about the change? Let me know in the comments below. Next up are the Brawl updates. For those of you who don't know what Brawl is, it's essentially the standard version of Commander. The only difference is that decks are 60 cards instead of 100, players start with 30 life, 25 if a 2-player game, and we're only allowed to use standard cards. Now, Wizards of the Coast announced that they would want to support the Brawl format by hosting a Magic Weekend Brawl event at LGS's on October 26th to 27th. Now, it's obvious that they really want to push the Brawl format, and last week was the official release of Throne of Eldraine, and alongside it, the release of the official Brawl pre-constructed decks, 4 of them to be exact. Overall, I think the product itself is pretty good and has received positive feedback. The popular YouTuber, The Professor, even said that the product is good from a gameplay standpoint. He then went on to say that they were well constructed, and I quote, are everything Magic the Gathering pre-constructed products should be. One of the major downsides to the product though is that there will not be any online redemption code for Magic the Gathering Arena, which is a bummer for many players. The Professor also rated the Brawl decks as an A- if bought for $20.99 US or less, B- for $21 to $30, and finally a D- if bought for $30 plus. What this means is that it's very clear to many and the Professor that there is a problem with the product, and that main problem is that the supply is too low because of a small print run. The lack of availability has led to a huge markup in prices. So, if you're planning to buy the new Brawl decks, expect to pay higher prices until the next print run. So fourth on the list is the Eldraine card descriptions on Magic's website. This topic's going to be short and sweet. Basically, on Magic's official website, Mark Rosewater has been writing articles called Eldraine Check. If you haven't already given it a read, I'd take a look because it's pretty interesting. He basically goes through the card design of Throne of Eldraine and explains the thought process of creating some of the cards. If you're a person that likes reading behind the scenes or just wants to understand more about game design, give the article a shot. And finally on our list, a new book releasing November 12th, 2019. Moving on to something more light, did you know that Magic the Gathering is going to be releasing a book? Yeah, it's going to be on the War of the Spark arc and follows the heroes of the multiverse and their adventures post-war. The story seems to focus on guilds trying to find someone to blame for the destruction of Nico Bolas. Dovin Bond, Tezzeret, and Liliana seem to be the three in mind. In the description, we also get to find out that we learn more about Liliana's future, now that she's free, as well as Kaya's journey as the leader of the Orzhov Syndicate. Greg Wiseman is the author and is also known for working on Gargoyles, The Spectacular Spider-Man, and Young Justice. I think this is pretty cool, since a big part of Magic is the flavor and the story behind their sets. If learning the story of Magic is up your alley, there's actually a pretty cool series on YouTube from TCG Player called Magic Arcana. It's hosted by Ryan Gomez, and he's a pretty good job of covering the stories of Magic the Gathering universe. So yeah, that about wraps it up for this week's video. If there's anything I missed, just be sure to let me know in the comments below. If you liked the video, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And that's about it. So thanks for watching. Peace.